Hi everyone, and a warm welcome also from my side. My name is Anna, and today I'm looking forward to giving you an insight into my master thesis, Carita, bringing mobile healthcare to rural areas. But before I jump right in, I would like you all to close your eyes for a minute. Are they all closed? Good. I would like to introduce you to Gerda. At 85, she has lived a wonderful life, tightly intertwined with her home in a quaint village in Germany. Her beloved house rings with the echoes of her life. Every creak of the oak floorboards whisper memories of playing children, and she smiles every time she walks through the kitchen door as she sees the marks on the doorframe that paint a vivid picture of growth and love. But now that she lives alone in her beloved home, Gerda's life has gotten increasingly more difficult. The village has changed so much since she moved here. The grocery store where she used to buy her milk closed down. The library that housed some of her favourite stories is now boarded up. And since her family doctor went into retirement, the village has not been able to get someone new to fill his position. So Gerda struggles to manage everyday life because many of the places she needs to go to are out of her reach. Gerda's especially worried about her health. Recently, she's had a lot more doctor's appointments, and she's starting to accept that aging isn't for the weak. But travelling long distances to reach the next doctor has become a tiresome and strenuous odyssey. So Gerda is starting to worry how she's going to manage. The once simple tasks now feel like insurmountable obstacles, overshadowing her days with uncertainty and anxiety. She really doesn't want to move away from her friends, from her village, from her home, but she fears she might have to if she can't find any other way. I want to give Gerda back her independence. Wouldn't it be great if Gerda could walk to the village square and find everything she needs within the reach of her own 2 feet? Where she could meet the neighbour and his dog on the way to get some milk, where she could go to meet her friends for coffee, but most of all, where she could get the regular checkups and the medical support that she needs. And that is exactly what I focused on during my thesis. I explored how moving spaces can enable access to essential services and especially healthcare in rural areas, so that Gerda can restore her autonomy and thrive in a beloved village once more, to live the independent life that she loves with a sense of joy and empowerment. And with that, I would like you to meet Carita, the moving space for mobile healthcare. For those of you who haven't already sneak peeked, you can open your eyes again now. With nearly 30% of Germany's population over the age of 60 within the next decade, and an even higher percentage in rural areas, addressing their decreasing mobility and the lack of mobility providers becomes increasingly critical for addressing essential services, particularly healthcare. Within a rotating system designed to deliver various essential services to these underserved communities, Carita focuses specifically on healthcare, making healthcare accessible through mobility. Developed in collaboration with the German Aerospace Center, Carita serves as a mobile healthcare facility that provides medical services and fosters a culture of well-being. At the heart of Carita is its thoughtfully designed interior, a hygienic yet inviting space creating an ideal environment to focus on patients' health and well-being. With Carita, we aim to make healthcare accessible through mobility and transportation design. For me personally, issues like these are what made me want to become a transportation designer in the first place. Seeing the potential in how mobility can address these issues and thereby create added value to society and, in a way, a better world through transportation design. As you can imagine, many people struggle just as Gerda does, especially since the effects of urbanization and therefore rural depopulation have caused a decline of essential services in rural areas. Even the German Federal Ministry for Health has proclaimed it an issue of national urgency that doctors in rural areas are having difficulties finding a successor for their practice and therefore maintaining medical access throughout the country. This becomes especially relevant in times of an aging population. By 2035, which is the timeframe I focused on during my thesis, we are looking at nearly 30% of the population above the age of 60 in Germany, with an even higher percentage in rural areas, and with the elderly becoming increasingly restricted in their mobility. But enabling independent rural living plays a vital role in sustaining or rather regaining a functional, healthy overall society. So that is what I set out to do. Inspired by both my primary as well as my secondary research, in which I was able to conduct several interviews and workshops with my target group, mostly citizens of rural areas, specifically the elderly, I gained insights into their needs, hopes, and wishes, which were mostly centered around the aspects such as food and nutrition, healthcare, social spaces, cultural activities, and essential services in general. After also speaking with experts in the field of moving spaces to see how I could tackle these needs through transportation design, where in one interview, Danny Stillian, the former executive design director and partner at IDEO, said that designers must consider the broader context and the ecosystem they are designing within to achieve preferable outcomes, I made it my personal prerogative to look at these issues from a holistic perspective, considering not only the vehicle, but also the overall system in which it would operate. So, in a strategic design approach, I developed a system of mobile spaces called shifting spaces, providing different types of essential services made possible through the mobility of said spaces, which would rotate between different villages in an area, thereby providing a viable business case. This approach is enabled by a modular autonomous vehicle concept, as well as local infrastructure in the village squares. This means that a day in the life of Carita could look something like this, with the drive board picking up Carita's capsule after a long night of moving goods, bringing Carita to today's location, setting her off for a good day's work, and picking her up after bringing her back home in the evening, where she's cleaned and refitted to be ready for a new location tomorrow. Supporting me in the conceptualization of this system and the vehicles involved is my collaboration partner, the German Aerospace Centre, or more specifically, their Institute for Vehicle Concepts, which focuses on creating holistic, human-centered approaches while utilizing their experience in tech and engineering. As an enabler, I'm basing my modular autonomous vehicle concept on the U-shift, which you can see in the middle here, which was developed by the DLR in an approach to combine aspects of moving people and moving goods, and which I will use as a base to realize my concept of moving spaces. Since my research underlined my hunch that healthcare was the most pressing issue in this context of the need for access to essential services, I decided to focus on this moving forward, with the most relevant stakeholders in this being the government and municipalities responsible for ensuring medical access to all their citizens, the service provider of the different types of moving spaces, as well as the healthcare organizations operating the healthcare capsules, or Carita, on a day-to-day business. So I continued to design a mobile space, a capsule for healthcare. My following in-depth research with healthcare professionals in rural areas inspired my decisions to include these most relevant aspects in my design. Telemedicine, as it allows for examination and consultation from different types of doctors within the same space, allowing them to join remotely. Including a nurse, since most patients are too worried to use medical equipment by themselves, and an assistant nurse would bring the much-needed confidence and trust, as well as familiarity, needed by the patients within the healthcare context. Certain medical equipment, of course, which, as it turns out, takes up much less space than I initially anticipated, and an interior that, in the words of Annette Liljegren, the head research strategist at the Centre of Rural Medicine, inspires trust, which I aim to achieve through a design that ensures hygienic conditions while creating an environment that makes patients feel welcomed and cared for. So, in addition to Gerda, who you've already met, and who will continue to represent my primary user, the decision to include a nurse also presented a new set of requirements. So, let me introduce you to Bruno. He is 32 and loves his job as a nurse. He lives in a larger town, which happens to be the next closest one to Gerda's village, but he can't imagine moving to a small village. In order to make his workday with Carita as enjoyable as possible, my research also guided me to include an additional area of privacy for Bruno, including personal space, storage, a small kitchenette for his break times, and options for relaxing. With all of these requirements in mind, I took to the drawing board and started on general ideation of what this healthcare capsule could be, looking both at the overall concept as well as the exterior and interior touchpoints of the vehicle and the features I would want to include. But of course, since I was working closely with the U-shift concept and was therefore able to use the DLR's expertise in engineering context, that also meant certain package requirements that I needed to take into consideration, to a certain degree. In consultation with the DLR responsibles, I was able to make some adaptations to the drive board and therefore the overall package to better accommodate the needs identified within my project, namely lowering the overall height of the drive board and reducing the depth of the engine bay to allow for more usable interior space, as well as reducing the front overhang of the capsule. To get a better understanding of this space that I was working with, and especially in relation to the human body and therefore the users of the space, I explored a variety of physical and digital methods, taking into account the user flows in body storming workshops and exploring a variety of different arrangements and layouts to accommodate the needs I had previously identified. Considering said user flow and the different touchpoints led me to a layout in which the first interaction when approaching the vehicle is with the welcome and registration touchpoint, located on the angled corner in the front of the vehicle, guiding the user into the sheltered anteroom, which still allows for quite a high level of transparency. And the further into the space that you move, the higher the level of privacy becomes. So upon entering the capsule, an entrance area for the patients ensures their privacy, which increases further when moving into the examination area. The most private area, the space exclusively for the nurse, is therefore located the furthest into the vehicle. From there, I also started exploring the aesthetic identity I might apply to the vehicle, and started the aesthetic ideation process with the exterior to get a feeling for the first impression that a user would get from the vehicle, looking at a variety of different styles and aesthetic approaches, identifying 3 potential themes. Starting with a more futuristic approach, stemming from the position of conveying competence, in this case showcasing the technology used. Over a more organic approach, originating from the research which supports the positive influence of nature on the healing process, to an approach which merges the two in a sense that it takes into account the need for conveying capability, in this case clean, strong geometries, while at the same time taking into account the human factor by ensuring a feeling of well-being through softness, for example, through large radii. During my process of body storming and interviews, etc., I identified the focus of the healthcare capsule to be on the interior of the vehicle, as this is the place where most time is spent and where the actual healthcare takes place. So, while I would love to look more closely and develop the entire system in detail, I decided that within the framing of this student thesis, I will focus specifically on the experience of the user within the interior of this space as a representation of a holistic solution. Which is why I looked more closely at creating a healing environment of trust by conveying professional capability, hygiene, and accessibility, while creating a welcoming atmosphere of well-being. In order to achieve this, I focused on simple, clean, and geometric yet soft forms, striking a balance between the clinical requirements of a medical setting and the human experience of those interacting with it. Further research into other vehicles like long-haul trucks and caravans, which also focus on the interior use of a space, supported my thoughts further. Even Jonathan Disley, the design director of Volvo Trucks, says that when the vehicle space is used as the user's workspace, it should be as simple as possible. Since these requirements fit well with the third direction I had explored, I decided to continue with this approach, transferring the theme to an interior layout and playing around with a variety of iterations. One aspect that stuck in my mind throughout this process was that of the 2 people, the patient and the nurse, and the user flows of them interacting both with the vehicle and with each other, inspiring me to use my design to guide these user flows to where they would meet and converge in the treatment area. Through exploring more defined areas of my theme's focus and deepening the design through focused iteration, the design started taking shape, giving me an overview of the usability and ambience of my design. In regards to the CMF, I was looking specifically at the trends of the 2 areas that were guiding me through my entire process, the silver generation and, of course, health tech, aiming to strike a harmonious balance between the 2. I found that quite a few aspects actually coincided, leading me to CMF choices based on pure, simple yet high-quality materials with a soft, warm touch, while of course keeping in mind the hygienic aspects. Finally, bringing me to my final design proposal, which I would like to guide you through the eyes of my users. It was a crisp Tuesday morning in Gerda's small village. Tuesdays were special. Tuesdays were Carita days. For Gerda, Carita was not just a convenience, it was a lifeline. Living alone had become a bit more challenging over the years, but thanks to shifting spaces, an innovative new service, healthcare and other essential services had been brought virtually to her doorstep. While Gerda was getting ready for the day, the U-shift drive board, after a long night of moving goods, docked onto Carita and went on to pick up Bruno, the nurse, at his house. As Carita manoeuvred through the country roads to get to Gerda's village, Bruno was preparing for the day, reviewing patient records on the screens of Carita's smart windows. Carita's autonomous driving system took care of the navigation while he finished his administrative tasks, but if needed, he could also take control of the vehicle, whether from the driver's seat or even remotely, ensuring a smooth ride to today's location. When Carita arrived at the village square, it seamlessly transformed. A canopy extended, creating a welcoming anteroom. Inside, Bruno got ready for the day and sipped his coffee, gazing out as the village began to stir. In the afternoon, Gerda began her short walk to the village square, exchanging smiles with her neighbour Hans as he walked his dog. Turning the corner, Carita came into view. Parked in its dedicated spot in the village square, it stood quietly, but with a welcoming presence. When Gerda approached the capsule, she tapped her health insurance card at the entrance, registering her arrival. Though she was a little early, she could see her appointment was just a few minutes away, so she briefly took a seat. When it was her turn, the nurse, Bruno, whom Gerda had known for some time, welcomed her inside. And so did Carita. Knowing that Gerda loves the forest and that it has a calming effect on her, Carita's smart windows projected a fitting surrounding. "Good to see you again, Gerda," Bruno said warmly as she took off her coat and placed her belongings, while he got out the equipment he would need for Gerda's examination. So Gerda took a seat on the examination bench. They chatted briefly about her health as Bruno checked her vitals, blood pressure, throat, ears. It was all routine, but comforting in its familiarity. Once the tests were completed, Dr. Carla Westenberg, Gerda's general practitioner, appeared on the screen, joining the consultation remotely. She greeted Gerda warmly, reviewed the data Bruno had gathered, and soon the doctor had everything she needed. They discussed Gerda's condition, and Dr. Westenberg uploaded the new prescription directly to the medical database. "The pharmacy will have it ready for you, Gerda," she said with a reassuring smile before signing off. Bruno informed Gerda that he would notify her if any of the lab results required attention. So, after a few more friendly words, Gerda put her coat back on, thanked Bruno, and made her way home, leaving Carita with a smile on her face. With Gerda's visit complete, the windows adapted to Bruno's preferences while he stored away the samples, tidied away the medical equipment, put on his favourite music, and went to make himself a nice hot cup of coffee. As the final patient of the day, Gerda's departure marked the end of Bruno's appointment for the day, so he leaned back in his chair, sipping his coffee and watching as the canopy slowly retracted and the exterior locked down. As the interior also prepared for the upcoming drive, Bruno felt a sense of quiet accomplishment. Carita secured all medical equipment, locking drawers and stowing away retractable elements, as well as unveiling elements that would be needed or useful during the drive, now ready for the journey home. Bruno turned in his seat and instructed Carita to get him home, reflecting on the day's work while the vehicle began its drive, bringing Bruno home before returning to its configuration center to be cleaned and reset for the next day's appointments. During the journey, Bruno finished the last bit of administrative work, then sat back to relax, allowing Carita to take him smoothly home as it had done countless times before. And with that, I would like to take a closer look at the design itself. Upon approaching, the semiotics of the exterior aim to convey competence, but also approachability. An angled corner in the front accommodates the first touchpoint for registering, aligned with the direction of entry, guiding the patients in. As you move inward, transparency gradually becomes privacy. A protruding canopy forms a sheltered anteroom, while foldable seating ensures flexibility for various needs like wheelchairs or buggies. Smart windows serve as touchscreens, for example for registration, waiting time estimates and appointment scheduling, or providing community communication. And solar panels on top enhance sustainability, while the large radii as well as the angled corner support aerodynamic aspects. Access to infrastructure like restrooms is provided through permanent on-site facilities, discreetly connected via the anteroom. Water and electricity connect manually. The patient flow is designed for intuitive use and accessibility. Light indicates interaction points such as protrudable coat hangers to the left close to the entrance. A handrail helps guide patients, especially those with mobility challenges, and doubles as a place to hang items or clothing. A corner seat offers flexibility for patients or accompanying people to sit, take off shoes or place belongings, with an additional ridge beside it for bags. The examination bench is slightly elevated, allowing for better access, both for the nurse and also easier use for the elderly patients. Weight scales are integrated in the floor, the possibility for interaction again indicated through the use of light, and a window creates a calming environment following the user flow. To create an inclusively accessible space, the door is wide enough for wheelchair access and includes a ramp that protrudes outside for easier entry. The door opens outwards to maximize interior space and provide a safer escape route. Inside, there's a minimum of 1,200 mm of turning space to ensure comfortable maneuverability for wheelchairs. The nurse flow is designed for efficiency and privacy. A step up with the different flooring creates a sense of separation for the nurse's private area, while maintaining an even countertop surface for both standing in the treatment zone and sitting in the nurse's area due to the height difference of the flooring. The most private space, further in, further separated by frosted glass, can also fully be enclosed with a glass door. The seating allows for both upright and relaxed positions, with a cup holder emerging during movement and induction charging available for mobile devices. A fold-out table enables work while driving, featuring a tangible keyboard and trackpad, while the smart windshield displays work or entertainment alongside essential driving data like speed, ETA, and maps. A backup steering can be revealed from under the table and removed for remote control. The table can serve for eating and folds down to access the hydraulically raisable kitchenette with a microwave, fridge, and a coffee machine. Lockers for personal belongings and storage for delicate medical supplies are located further inside, so seen here on the right, while a medical fridge, sink, and everyday medical equipment are stored further towards the front for easy access. All storage is push to open with ShyTech indicators and locks automatically during travel. A countertop runs along the space, visually supporting the nurse's workflow, while smart windows in the examination area display remote consultations and medical data. The vehicle's AI is primarily voice-controlled, interpreting and adapting to tasks automatically, with a control panel accessible for the nurse's area for manual adjustments. The hygiene aspects of the design prioritize cleanliness and the ease of maintenance. The upholstery is made from self-cleaning, dirt-resistant and antibacterial fabric, and are removable for separate cleaning. Areas touched by many individuals, especially patients, like handrails, door handles, and coat hangers, are made of easy-to-clean metal, and a shadow gap between the wood paneling and the floor, along with floating surfaces, simplify the cleaning. Large, even surfaces allow for easy wiping, while fridge and sink doors have a step and seal closures for better hygiene, and sanitation is further supported by UV light, both included in the ceiling light and an additional handheld device. All of Carita's windows are smart windows, offering a variety of options including transparent, frosted and mirrored, along with the capability to function as screens. They can display environmental images, medical data, remote doctor consultations, work interfaces, as well as entertainment. Integrated cameras in the telemedical screen enable remote access, which for example could also allow family members, such as Gada's family, to join for moral support and information. The lighting is designed to ensure bright illumination for the examinations in the treatment area without blinding the patients, utilizing large surface areas to diffuse light evenly so that it remains visually pleasing for patients even while lying down and looking at the ceiling. Indirect lighting creates an atmospheric ambience in non-examination spaces and incorporates ventilation and sound. The lighting also visually divides areas without requiring further physical dividers. My chosen form language integrates warm, soft geometries with clean elegance and simple utility to create a healing environment that fosters trust and well-being. This design balances the clinical needs of medical settings with the human experience, conveying professional capability, hygiene, and accessibility while ensuring a welcoming atmosphere. My thesis project centers on transportation design specifically focused on the interior of a vehicle concept that operates as a mobile space. This concept is only made possible through its mobility, but it takes a less conventional approach to transportation design, bringing the space to the people rather than the people to the space, thereby prompting a deeper examination of what transportation design entails. It explores the idea of moving spaces, so to inform this design, I conducted interviews with transportation designers who specialize in moving spaces, allowing me to identify and implement the key considerations for this alternative approach. The design addresses mobility needs such as secure storage, fixed seating, and multi-purpose furniture, while optimizing compact dimensions for essential components dictated by the engineering and road legality requirements of a vehicle-specific package. My design methodology, based on ideation and iteration, integrates all elements of the vehicle interior into a cohesive flow, aiming to establish a recognizable design language that promotes capability and well-being. Additionally, I focus on enhancing the user experience during transit, for example by enabling working while driving, considering aspects such as safety and motion sickness through features like tactile input, visual informations, and the ability to intervene in the driving process if needed. In a way, this project supports the position of mobile spaces as a significant part of transportation design. Taking a step back and looking at Carita within the overall context and system of shifting spaces, the scalability to other use cases, such as the application to other essential services within the system, becomes visible. As well as their scalability to other usage contexts, be it other countries struggling with similar issues, deployment to disaster relief areas, and many more. Looking back on this journey, I can definitely say that I have learned a lot, both in a personal and a professional manner. On the one hand, of course, in terms of skills, methods, and processes, but also in regards to the importance of taking a few steps back every once in a while to learn from mistakes and to put things into perspective. I've also learned a lot about myself, where my strengths and my interests lie, and in which direction I see myself going career-wise, focusing on the conceptual, strategic, and system aspects of projects, doing in-depth research, and then projecting in what way mobility and transportation design can be catalysts for change, innovation, and the next steps towards a brighter future for us all. And with that, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who supported me throughout this process. Thank you to everyone from UID, to Ali and Damien for their wisdom, and especially Jonas for his mentorship throughout this time, to Sam for his counsel during the gateways, and Eileen for her insights, to my mentors, Robert and Masha from the DLR for their guidance, to my family and friends, Johannes in particular, for always being there for me, and especially to Rohit for his incredible support, for believing in me when I couldn't, and for being with me on this incredible rollercoaster ride. And thank you all for listening. I look forward to your feedback and your questions. Thank you.